I stared at the small piece of paper that had just been slipped under my wine glass. My granddaughter Maya's handwriting was unmistakable, but the words made my blood run cold. "Don't let her marry him. Trust me, Grandma. Please." My hands started shaking. I looked up at Maya, who was sitting across from me at this beautiful rehearsal dinner. She was 14, with those same green eyes my daughter Jennifer had at that age. But right now, those eyes were filled with something I'd never seen before, pure terror. Let me back up. My name is Barbara, and I'm 67 years old. 3 days ago, I was the happiest mother alive. My daughter Jennifer, who's 45, and had almost given up on finding love again after her divorce 10 years ago, had met someone. His name was Craig Mitchell, and he seemed perfect. Successful real estate developer, charming, attentive, generous. They'd been together for 8 months, and when he proposed on New Year's Eve, I cried tears of joy. Now we were at Riverside Manor, a gorgeous venue overlooking the Hudson River, for the rehearsal dinner. Tomorrow was supposed to be the wedding. The room was filled with Jennifer's friends, Craig's business associates, and our small family. My son Thomas was there with his wife Paula, and Maya, Thomas's daughter, my brilliant, observant granddaughter. I picked up the note again, trying not to let anyone see my hands trembling. Jennifer was at the head table, laughing at something Craig had just said. She looked radiant in her navy blue dress. Craig had his arm around her, playing the perfect fiancé. I folded the note carefully and slipped it into my purse. Then I caught Maya's eye and gave her the smallest nod. She excused herself from the table, heading toward the restroom. I waited exactly 2 minutes before following. I found her in the hallway, pacing back and forth, her face pale. "Maya, sweetheart, what's going on?" I kept my voice low. "Grandma, She stopped, her voice breaking. "I saw something terrible. He's lying to Mom. About everything." My heart was pounding. "What did you see?" She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "Last Saturday, Dad asked me to come to the hardware store with him. We were in Ridgewood, you know, the nice shopping area. I was waiting outside while Dad was getting paint, and I saw him." "Saw who?" "Craig." She scrolled through her phone. "He was coming out of that Italian restaurant, Marcello's, but he wasn't alone, Grandma." She turned the phone toward me. The photo was a bit distant, but clear enough. Craig, unmistakable in his expensive navy blazer, was walking with a woman I'd never seen before. A pretty brunette in her 30s. And between them, holding both their hands, was a little boy who couldn't have been more than 5 years old. "They looked like a family," Maya whispered. "I thought maybe it was a client or something, you know. But then..." She swiped to another photo. This one made my stomach drop. Craig was kissing the woman. Not a friendly peck. A real kiss. The little boy was tugging on Craig's hand, and there was a wedding ring clearly visible on Craig's finger. "Oh my God," I breathed. "There's more." Maya's voice was barely audible now. I didn't want to believe it. I thought maybe I was wrong, maybe it was someone who looked like him, so I kind of followed them. Just for a little bit. They got into a car together. A silver Honda. I took a picture of the license plate. She showed me another photo. The plate was clearly visible. "And then I did something I probably shouldn't have," Maya continued, looking guilty. "I used that online database thing, you know, the one you can look up people by their license plate. It cost me $15 of my babysitting money." "Maya, the car is registered to a Sarah Mitchell in Ridgewood, so I looked her up on Facebook, and..." She pulled up a Facebook profile. "This is her, Sarah Mitchell. And look at her profile picture." It was the woman from the photos, and her status said married. Her cover photo was a family picture, her, Craig, and the little boy at a beach, all smiling. The photo was dated from last summer. "Oh, sweetheart," I pulled Maya into a hug. She was trembling. "I didn't know what to do," she said into my shoulder. "I wanted to tell Dad, but Mom looked so happy, and I thought maybe I was crazy. But then tonight, watching him with her, acting like he's this perfect guy..." She pulled back, tears streaming down her face. "Grandma, he's still married. He has a little boy, and tomorrow Mom is going to marry him, and it's all a lie." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me, but I had to stay calm. For Maya, for Jennifer. "Okay," I said, taking a deep breath. "Okay, you did the right thing telling me. But we need to be smart about this. Shouldn't we just tell Mom right now?" Every instinct in me wanted to march into that dining room and drag Jennifer out. but I forced myself to think. If we tell her now, in front of everyone, it'll be chaos. And Craig. I thought about his smooth charm, his convincing manner. He'll have an explanation. He'll make it sound innocent. We need proof that can't be argued with. But I have proof. Maya held up her phone. Photos of him with a woman and a child. He could say it's his sister, his cousin, a client's family. We need more, honey. We need to know for sure that he's married, that this is his wife and child. Maya bit her lip. So what do? We verify. Tonight, and then tomorrow morning before the wedding, we tell Jennifer everything with proof she can't deny. I looked at my watch. It was 7:30. The rehearsal dinner would go until 9, maybe 9:30. Give me that license plate number, I said, and the address from the database. Maya pulled it up, 42 Maple Drive, Ridgewood. I knew Ridgewood. It was only about 20 minutes away. Here's what we're going to do, I said, my mind racing. We're going to go back in there and act normal. Can you do that? Maya nodded, though she looked terrified. I'm going to tell your dad I'm not feeling well, a headache. I'll say I need to leave early. You're going to stay here, okay? Keep an eye on Craig. If he leaves, or tries to talk to your mom alone, you text me immediately. Where are you going? To verify the truth. And Maya, I took her face in my hands. You're so brave. Your mom is lucky to have you watching out for her. We went back into the dining room. I stopped by Thomas's seat and whispered that I was getting a terrible headache, probably the wine. He looked concerned, but I waved him off, said I just needed to lie down. I made brief excuses to Jennifer, kissed her cheek, and left. The moment I got into my car, my hands started shaking again. I sat there for a moment, staring at the address Maya had given me, 42 Maple Drive. I'd been a teacher for 40 years before I retired. I'd raised 2 kids on my own after my husband died when they were young. I'd handled difficult situations before, but this? Driving to confront the possibility that my daughter's fiancé was a bigamist? This was something else entirely. But I started the car. The drive to Ridgewood felt like it took hours, though it was only 20 minutes. It was a nice neighborhood, tree-lined streets, well-maintained homes, not fancy, but comfortable. Middle class, family-friendly. I found Maple Drive easily enough. Number 42 was a 2-story colonial with blue shutters. There were lights on inside. And in the driveway, sure enough, was a silver Honda. I parked across the street, trying to look casual. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. What was I even doing here? What was I hoping to find? As if in answer to my question, the front door opened. The little boy from Maya's photos ran out, followed by the brunette woman Sarah. She was calling after him, laughing. Tyler, come back here, you forgot your jacket. The boy ran back, and she bundled him into a jacket. Then a man came to the door. Craig. He was dressed more casually than at the dinner, jeans and a sweater, but it was definitely him. He ruffled the boy's hair, said something I couldn't hear, and kissed Sarah on the cheek. They looked like a normal family, enjoying a Friday evening. My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Everyone's asking about you. I said you had a headache. Craig just gave a toast about how lucky he is to have found his soulmate. I feel sick. I watched as Craig got into a different car, a BMW that must have been parked in the garage. He backed out of the driveway and headed in the opposite direction of where I was parked. I waited until he was out of sight, then I did something I never thought I'd do. I got out of my car and walked up to the house. Sarah answered on the second ring of the doorbell. She looked surprised to see an older woman she didn't know standing on her porch. Can I help you? She asked politely. This was it. The moment of truth. I could turn around, leave, pretend I'd never seen anything. Or I could save my daughter from making the biggest mistake of her life. Are you Sarah Mitchell? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Yes. She looked confused and slightly wary now. I'm Barbara Hayes, and I need to talk to you about your husband. Her face went pale. I'm sorry, who are you? Tomorrow, my daughter is supposed to marry a man named Craig Mitchell, but I have reason to believe he's already married. To you. For a long moment she just stared at me. Then her face crumbled. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God, not again. Again? She stepped back from the door. You should come in. I followed her into a living room that looked like any family home toys scattered around, photos on the walls, photos of her, the little boy, and Craig. His name isn't Craig, Sarah said quietly, sitting down heavily on the couch. It's David Mitchell. He's my husband. We've been married for 8 years. That's our son Tyler. He just turned 5. I felt dizzy. You said not again. She laughed bitterly. Because this is the 3rd time, or at least the 3rd time I know about. David travels a lot for work or so, he says. 6 years ago, I found out he was engaged to a woman in Boston. I was devastated, but he swore it was a mistake, that he'd call it off, that he loved me and Tyler. Like an idiot, I believed him. And then? Then, 3 years ago, it happened again. Different city, different woman. That time I almost left him. But he cried, said he had a problem, said he'd get help. He went to therapy, or claimed he did, and things seemed better, until my daughter, I finished. Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. I didn't even know about this one. When does he claim the wedding is? Tomorrow, 2 o'clock. She closed her eyes. He told me he had a big real estate conference in Chicago this weekend, left this afternoon, said he'd be back Monday. Sarah, how does he manage this? How does he hide a whole other life? He's good at compartmentalizing, very good. And he's smart about it. He uses cash a lot, has a separate phone for his work contacts, never brings me around his business associates. I thought it was just because he liked to keep his family life private. I thought about how Craig had kept Jennifer away from most of his personal life too. Never introduced her to old friends. Always said they'd do family gatherings after the wedding. Do you have proof? I asked. Of your marriage? Of course. Marriage certificate, joint bank account, mortgage documents, Tyler's birth certificate with David's name on it, everything. I'm going to need copies. And I'm going to need you to come with me tomorrow and tell my daughter the truth before she walks down that aisle. Sarah looked at me, fresh tears falling. I should have left him years ago. But I kept thinking about Tyler and the life we'd built, and I'm so sorry about your daughter. She doesn't deserve this. Neither did you. Neither do any of the women he's done this to. Sarah stood up. Let me get those documents. And then I'm calling my lawyer. This ends tomorrow. No more. We spent the next hour making copies of everything. Marriage certificate from 2017, joint tax returns, the mortgage on this house in both their names, photos spanning 8 years. Tyler's birth certificate, with David Craig Mitchell listed as father. David Craig Mitchell, I said, looking at the birth certificate. He just dropped the David. Easier to keep track of the lies that way, I guess, Sarah said bitterly. By the time I left, it was almost 10:30. Sarah had agreed to meet me at 9 the next morning at my house. Jennifer was staying with me until the wedding, a tradition she'd wanted to keep. I drove home in a daze. Tomorrow was going to be brutal. Absolutely brutal. But it was better than the alternative, Jennifer marrying a con artist and bigamist. When I got home, there were 3 missed calls from Thomas and 2 from Maya. I called Thomas first. Mom, are you okay? You left so suddenly. I'm fine, honey. The headache's better. Is the dinner over? Just wrapping up. Jennifer's a bit worried about you. Tell her I'll see her back at the house soon. And Thomas? Can you and Paula come by tomorrow at 9? Before the wedding. It's important. Bring Maya. There was a pause. Mom, what's going on? I'll explain tomorrow. But Thomas, it's very important. 9 sharp. After I hung up, I texted Maya. You were right. I have proof. We tell her tomorrow morning. You're going to save your aunt's life. I'm so proud of you. She texted back immediately. Is it bad? Yes, but we're going to get through this. Get some sleep, sweetheart. Tomorrow's going to be hard. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking about Jennifer's face when she'd shown me her engagement ring, about how she'd said, Mom, I finally feel like my life is beginning again. At 8:30 the next morning, Jennifer came downstairs in her robe, glowing and excited. Mom, why didn't you wake me? We have so much to do before the ceremony. I was making coffee with shaking hands. Honey, sit down. Thomas and Paula are coming over. And Maya. We need to talk about something. She laughed. Mom, we don't have time for a family meeting. The wedding's at 2. Jennifer, sit down. Something in my voice made her freeze. She sat slowly at the kitchen table. Mom, you're scaring me. What's wrong? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Thomas, Paula, and Maya. They looked concerned and confused. Then, 5 minutes later, Sarah arrived. Jennifer's face went from confused to alarmed when a stranger walked into our kitchen. Mom, what is going on? I took both her hands in mine. Baby, I love you so much. and what I'm about to tell you is going to hurt. But I promise you, we're doing this because we love you. You're scaring me. Maya stepped forward. Aunt Jen, I saw something last Saturday. Something I couldn't ignore. She pulled out her phone. This is Craig. Coming out of a restaurant in Ridgewood with a woman and a little boy. Jennifer looked at the photo, frowning. That could be anyone. It's him, Mom, Maya said softly. I followed them. I got their license plate. I found out who she was. Maya, this is crazy. I'm Sarah Mitchell, Sarah said quietly. And Craig Mitchell is my husband. We've been married for 8 years. That little boy is our son, Tyler. The color drained from Jennifer's face. That's not possible. Craig's not married. He's never been married. Sarah opened her bag and started pulling out documents. Marriage certificate, tax returns, our mortgage, Tyler's birth certificate. Jennifer stared at the papers like they might bite her. No, there's some mistake. This isn't Craig, this is David. David Craig Mitchell, Sarah said. Same person. He uses Craig for his other life. Other life? Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. You're not the first, Sarah said gently. I'm so sorry, but I've found out about 2 other women over the years. Women he was planning to marry while married to me. Jennifer picked up the marriage certificate with trembling hands, looked at the wedding photo attached to it. It was definitely Craig or David, or whatever his real name was. This can't be real, she whispered, but I could see it in her eyes. She knew it was. There's more, I said softly. Sarah ran a background check last night. Craig David has multiple aliases, multiple credit cards in different names. He's running some kind of real estate scam, convincing women to invest in properties that don't exist. Jennifer's head snapped up. That's why he wanted me to liquidate my retirement account to invest in a huge development deal. Did you? Thomas asked. Not yet. It was supposed to happen next week, after the wedding. Sarah nodded grimly. That's his pattern. Court a successful independent woman, quick romance, quick engagement, get them to trust him with their money. Then disappear or, well, in my case, he just kept coming back. Why didn't you leave him? Jennifer's voice was sharp now, angry. The same reason you were going to marry him, Sarah replied. He's very good at making you believe you're special, that you're the one, that everything before was a mistake but you're his real love. Jennifer stood up abruptly, knocking her chair back. I need to call him. There has to be an explanation. Thomas started. No. Maybe there's some reason. Maybe he's in witness protection or something and couldn't tell me. Honey. I took her shoulders gently. I know this is devastating. I know you want there to be another explanation, but look at this evidence. Really look at it. She did. She looked at every document, every photo. I watched her face cycle through denial, confusion, realization, and finally fury. I'm going to kill him, she said flatly. No, you're going to let the police handle him, Thomas said, because Sarah's right. This isn't just bigamy, it's fraud. We should call the police now, Paula said. Already done, Sarah said. I called them last night after Barbara left. There's a detective coming here at 10. Jennifer sank back into her chair. The wedding's supposed to be in 4 hours. We need to cancel it, I said gently. Call the venue, the caterer, everyone. Everyone's going to know, Jennifer said, her voice hollow. Everyone's going to know what an idiot I was. You weren't an idiot, Maya said fiercely. She'd been quiet through most of this, but now she came and knelt beside Jennifer's chair. Aunt Jen, you fell in love. That's not stupid. He's the one who did something wrong, not you. Jennifer pulled Maya into a tight hug, and both of them started crying. You saved me, Jennifer whispered into Maya's hair. If you hadn't been paying attention, if you hadn't been brave enough to look into it, I just didn't want you to get hurt, Maya said. Detective Morrison arrived at 10 sharp. She was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who listened to everything with a carefully neutral expression. This man David or Craig Mitchell has quite a file, she said, pulling out her own folder. We've been looking for him for a while now. Multiple fraud complaints from women in 3 different states. But he's slippery, uses different names, moves around a lot. He was supposed to be at the wedding today, Thomas said, at the Riverside Manor at 2. Then that's where we'll be, Detective Morrison said. In the meantime, I need to collect all this evidence, and I'll need statements from all of you. It took until noon to finish with the police. By then, Jennifer had made the painful calls to cancel the wedding. Most people were shocked and worried. A few were judgmental. Jennifer handled it with more grace than I could have. He fooled me completely, she said to one friend. The police are involved now. I just thank God my family figured it out in time. At 1:30, Detective Morrison called. He's at the venue, showed up right on schedule, acting like nothing's wrong. We're bringing him in now for questioning. Can we be there? Jennifer asked. When you arrest him? I wouldn't recommend. I need to see his face, Jennifer said. When he realizes he's been caught. So we all went, me, Jennifer, Thomas, Paula, Maya, and Sarah. The Riverside Manor was beautiful in the afternoon sun. I thought about how different this day was supposed to be. Craig David was standing in the groom's area with his best man when we walked in with Detective Morrison and 2 uniformed officers. He was wearing a tuxedo, looking handsome and confident. When he saw us all together, especially Sarah, his face went completely white. Jen? He started, that smooth voice switching on automatically. What's going on? Why is everyone? David Mitchell, Detective Morrison said, stepping forward with handcuffs. You're under arrest for bigamy, fraud, and identity theft. The best man backed away quickly. Craig David looked between Jennifer and Sarah. I can explain, he said desperately. Both of you, I can explain. Don't, Jennifer said. Her voice was like ice. Don't say another word to me, ever. Sarah stepped forward, pulling something out of her purse. Here, Tyler drew you a picture for Father's Day, since you're his father. Remember? It was a crayon drawing of a family stick figures labeled Daddy, Mommy, and Me. Did you even remember you have a son? Sarah asked quietly. Or were you so busy playing house with Jennifer that you forgot? For once, Craig had nothing to say. The officer read him his rights and led him away. He looked back once at Jennifer, and I saw her lift her chin, refusing to cry in front of him. It wasn't until we were back in the car that she broke down. I feel so stupid, she sobbed. 8 months. How did I not see it? Because you were looking at someone you loved, I said, holding her. You were seeing the man you wanted him to be. That's not stupid. That's human. The next few weeks were difficult. The story made local news. Real estate developer arrested for bigamy and fraud. Jennifer had to deal with embarrassment, anger, grief for the future she'd thought she had. But slowly, she healed. She threw herself into work, started going to therapy, reconnected with old friends she drifted away from during her whirlwind romance. And she grew closer to Maya. You know, Jennifer said to me one afternoon about 2 months later, I keep thinking about how Maya saw something wrong and trusted her instincts enough to investigate, even though she was scared, even though she knew it would hurt me. She loves you, I said. I know. And I almost didn't listen. If you hadn't taken her seriously, if you dismissed it as a kid being dramatic, she shuddered. I'd be married to him right now. Or maybe worse. Maybe I'd be another missing person case once he'd drained my accounts. The trial was scheduled for the following spring. Sarah had divorced David and moved back to her hometown with Tyler. She sent Jennifer a letter apologizing, which Jennifer appreciated but said wasn't necessary. We were both his victims, Jennifer said, along with God knows how many others. But here's the thing that stays with me most from all of this. About 3 months after the arrest, Maya came to visit. She was quieter than usual, picking at her food at dinner. What's wrong, sweetheart? I asked. I keep thinking, she said slowly, what if I'd been wrong? What if it had just been his sister or something, and I'd ruined Aunt Jen's wedding for nothing? Jennifer reached across the table and took her hand. But you weren't wrong. Your instincts told you something was off, and instead of ignoring them, you investigated. You gathered evidence. You didn't just make wild accusations, you found the truth. I was so scared to tell anyone, Maya admitted. That's what made it brave, I said. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing, even when you're terrified. Jennifer pulled Maya into a hug. You saved my life, Maya. Literally. Who knows what he would have done once he had access to my money? Detective Morrison said he's probably done this to at least 7 other women, Maya said quietly. And now he can't do it anymore. Because of you, Jennifer said firmly. Because you paid attention and cared enough to do something about it. As I watched them together, I thought about all the little moments that had led to that note at the rehearsal dinner. Maya's observant nature, her courage, the trust between us that made her come to me, the decision to verify rather than just accuse. Any one of those things could have gone differently. Maya might not have noticed Craig in Ridgewood. She might have seen him, but dismissed it. She might have kept it to herself out of fear or uncertainty. I might not have believed her. We might have confronted him without proof, and he would have talked his way out of it. But none of those things happened. Instead, a 14-year-old girl trusted her instincts, gathered evidence, and prevented a tragedy. These days, Jennifer's doing well. She's dating again slowly, carefully, with better boundaries. She's become an advocate for fraud victims, speaking at workshops about warning signs of financial scams in relationships. And Maya? She's thinking about becoming a detective someday. She's got the instincts for it. Last week was the anniversary of the non-wedding. Jennifer invited me, Thomas, Paula, and Maya over for dinner. "I want to celebrate," she said when she invited us. "Not the day I almost married a criminal, but the day my family saved me from the biggest mistake of my life." Over dinner, we toasted to family, to trusting your gut, and to speaking up even when it's hard. "To Maya," Jennifer said, raising her glass, "the bravest person I know." Maya blushed, but she smiled too. As I watched my family laughing together, I thought about that little folded note that had been slipped under my wine glass. "Don't let her marry him. Trust me, Grandma, please." 6 words that changed everything. Sometimes the people we need to protect us aren't the ones we expect. Sometimes it's not the adults with all the life experience. Sometimes it's a 14-year-old with sharp eyes and the courage to speak up. I'll never forget the fear in Maya's eyes that night at the rehearsal dinner, or the relief in Jennifer's eyes when she realized she'd escaped, or the moment at the venue when Craig David, whoever he really was, finally got caught. But most of all, I'll remember that we listened. When Maya came to us with something that seemed almost too terrible to be true, we didn't dismiss her. We didn't tell her she was too young to understand. We didn't assume she must be wrong. We listened, we investigated, we acted, and that made all the difference. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that you should always listen when someone you love, especially a child, tells you something's wrong, even if it seems impossible, even if you don't want to believe it, because sometimes the people who love us see things we can't or won't see ourselves. Sometimes a simple note can save a life. And sometimes the hero of the story is a 14-year-old girl with a smartphone and the courage to do the right thing.